Tatiyampi buddhang saranang gacchami. Tatiyampi dhammang saranang gacchami. Tatiyampi sanghang saranang gacchami. So welcome, friends, to this Sunday Dhamma session. And we're continuing to look at the Dhammapada, and we're on now, we're going to be starting chapter 8, the Sahasa Vagga, which is the chapter on the sevens. Excuse me, the chapter on thousands. So these are verses which use the word thousands in them, like 1,000 different things. So this first verse is the verse 100. I'm going to chant the Pali as usual, and then the English translation. Sahasampi chevacha anatta pada samhita ekam gata padam seyo yam sutva upasammati. So, better than 1,000 utterances comprising useless words is one single beneficial word, hearing of which one becomes pacified. And so the meaning of that is usually it means people engage in so many kinds of talk that excite their senses, excite their greed or lust or their attachments and anger or hatred. But just uttering one verse or one word will calm the mind, like just saying peace or everything's impermanent, or usually it's some aspect of the Dhamma or Buddho. You hear the word Buddho and the mind becomes peaceful. Of course, you have to understand what the meaning of it. So there's a story behind this. Just try to adjust this a little bit. There was a bloodthirsty villain, it seems, or a bloodthirsty robber, criminal. He joined a band of thieves, and they committed many crimes. And later, this particular villain, he became the public executioner, in which so first of all, he committed lots of crimes, and then he is in charge of executing people who committed a crime, thus committing more crime, let's say crime against Dhamma, not maybe against the ordinary law, but a crime against the Dhamma by becoming a public executioner, killing people. But at some point, it seems Venerable Sariputta, the main disciple, chief disciple of the Buddha, taught him some Dhamma and converted him to the Dhamma. And this person was so moved by the teachings of Venerable Sariputta that he underwent a complete transformation. And after death, he was born in a heavenly state. So even though he had done a lot of crimes in his former life, he must have at least attained maybe the stage of a Sotapanna, although it's not specifically stated here. But he was reborn in a heavenly state. And the Buddha explained that his good rebirth was due to the compassion and advice of his spiritual advisor, or someone like Venerable Sariputta. So, having committed all those crimes, this person heard the Dhamma from Sariputta that pacified this criminal's mind, and was able to, he was able to transform himself like that. So that is the sort of the meaning of that. And then this next verse is about, conquering others, by force, and conquering one's self. Yo sahasam sahasena sangame manuse jine ekancha jeya mattanam save sangamajuttamo. So, though one should conquer 1,000 men in the battlefield, yet that person is the noblest victor who has conquered himself or herself. So, of course, in the Dhamma, when we say conquering oneself, that means, transcending the grip of the ego and purifying the mind of greed, hatred, and delusion. So basically, you're conquering the ego, because normally the ego is made up of, greed, hatred, and delusion, and all the karmic actions that we've accumulated. And so we're basically, in bondage or a slave to this ego. So conquering oneself means attaining liberation. So, better than defeating foes in the battlefield is defeating Mara. So basically, we're doing battle against Mara, which is the ignorance in our mind, the deep-seated ignorance that keeps us committing unskillful karma and adding more and more fuel to the rebirth, to the rounds of rebirth. And there's a story behind this verse. It seems there was a wealthy woman fell in love with a thief and married him. Later, this thief took the wife to the top of a cliff and wanted to rob her of her jewelry and kill her. So this thief married the woman. For some reason wanted to marry this thief. The thief said okay, but then he wanted to marry her just to kill her and then rob her. And the wife's pleading him not to kill her, was useless. But under the she said, before you kill me, let me pay my respects to you. So she got behind him and pushed him down the cliff, it seems. So she wound up, killing him by using her cunning to kind of trick him. But later she became a nun. So these stories are very complicated. Of course, people's lives are complicated too, right? So this lady became a nun, and she also met Venerable Sariputta and heard the Dhamma and attained arahantship. So, and then the bhikkhus, the monks, were discussing how this woman had battled with the bandit. And later, hearing a few words of the Dhamma, had become an arahant. And based on that, the Buddha gave this verse. He spoke on the efficacy of the words of truth, or the power of the words of truth, and the importance of taming oneself. So Venerable Sariputta's words were able to tame this woman and to become an arahant. So there's a lot of stories like that in the suttas. Now this next verse, verse 106. I'll read it in Pali. Mase mase sahasena yo yajata satam samam ekancha bhavitatanam muhuttam api pujaye saeva pujjana seyo yan chevasa satam huttam. So, though month after month, a person should make offerings to various shrines, with big sums of money, yet if only for a moment one should honor a living saint or a sage who has attained enlightenment, that honor is indeed better than a century of sacrifices. And there's also another similar kind of story is that some of the ascetics in the Buddha's day were tending the sacrificial fire. So they thought that if they kept a flame burning like 24 hours a day and kept making sacrifices or pujas to this fire also, that would help them attain enlightenment. But rather than doing those kind of fire worship and sacrifices, is just listening to the few words of a wise person or practicing meditation that would calm and purify the mind. And the story behind that is the Venerable Sariputta. Sariputta features in many of these Dhammapada verses. So Venerable Sariputta's uncle was a person like that. So Sariputta's uncle used to spend a lot of money donating it to the naked ascetics so that they could, buy her enough ghee to do their fire sacrifices and to do their rites and rituals. With the object of being born in a heavenly realm. That means the uncle actually donated, the money to these naked ascetics with the idea to be born in a heavenly realm. Evidently, Sariputta, finally, Sariputta, recognizing that, took him to the Buddha, who then was able to preach Dhamma to him and direct him to the proper path. So again, all these have the same kind of theme, that better than doing useless rituals or reciting useless words and so on for years and years and years or lifetimes is just, learning a few verses of the Dhamma or doing a little bit of meditation, which would then calm one and open one's mind to the deeper truth and to be able to attain the paths and fruits. In the same way, along those same lines, is another verse. I'm not going to read it, but because these are very similar meanings. Is that in the Brahmins of the day Vedic times, at the time of the Buddha, even animal sacrifices were very popular. So people would spend lots of money buying animals to sacrifice them. That means they cut off their heads and butcher them and have the blood and offer that to various gods. And thinking that would bring them merit, that would please the gods, that they would then somehow grant them access to heaven or whatever they kind of believed. And so better than making all these animal sacrifices and other types of things is, again, just hearing the teachings of an enlightened person, in which one would then be directed and on to the right path of liberation, giving up all those unskillful or negative types of karmic actions and purifying the mind. Then there's a list of, or a number of verses that are been some of my favorite verses also. And I'll read them. Yo chavasa satam jive dusilo asamahito ekaham jivitam seyo silavanta sajaino. Though one should live 100 years, immoral and uncontrolled, is the better to live but a single day of one who is moral and meditative. So a person might live to be 100 years old and involved in all kinds of akusala and uncontrolled activities, breaking all the precepts. But another person just living but one day, well-controlled and meditative, is worth more merits than living for 100 years, immoral and with an uncontrolled mind. So there's a story on this one. Some men in their old age became monks and wished to go to the forest to meditate. The Buddha saw the danger in that, about them going to the forest, the old men going to the forest. And so he told them to take a young novice who was an arhat with them. So he was thinking that if this young novice who was already an arhat went with these older monks, that they would kind of somehow be protected. And a band of thieves, hearing of their presence, approached them and demanded a monk, one of these old monks, to be given as a votive offering. And all the old monks volunteered to offer their lives. But the young novice got their permission to sacrifice his life for the sake of the others. So the bandits took this young monk to their hideout and made preparations to kill him. And this novice monk, who was an arahant and evidently had psychic powers, quietly attained to the, some supreme, very high jhanic power in which he could not be killed, or the ringleader thief tried to, cut this novice's head off with a sword, but it was somehow couldn't do it. And then realized that this novice was, had these powers and was enlightened. So then the ringleader of the thieves then was so awed by that he prostrated himself before the young monk and wanted to hear the Dhamma, and also wanted to become a monk. And all of those other thieves also wanted to become monks. And so this novice ordained them and returned safely to the other old monks who were still in the forest meditating. And he went to the Buddha and told him what happened. And then the Buddha spoke on the value of a virtuous life. Anyway, it's kind of a long story, but it just shows how if one lives to 100 years but doesn't gain any type of mastery of the mind or develops their mind, and even if some young person, then practices and develops their mind to that level, that just a few years of practice is worth more than, a person living, to old age and then being too old to sufficiently practice. So again, that's just a kind of a motivation for people to start practicing the Dhamma when they're young, rather than waiting until they're older to, start meditating. Okay, now we're going to come to some very well-known suttas, Dhammapada verses. They're in the same line that we were talking about. Yo chava sasatam jive apasam udaya vayam ekaham jivitam seyo pasato udaya vayam. Though one should live 100 years without comprehending how all things rise and pass away, yet better indeed is a single day of one who comprehends how all things rise and pass away. In other words, in the perception of impermanence. So, better than living 100 years without wisdom is better than to live just a single day with that wisdom of impermanence. And so the story behind this is a very famous story in the Dhamma, the story of Patara. Now, many of you may well have heard this story before, but Patara was a young woman who had gotten married to a man. And it's a very long story. I'm not going to go and read all the details of it, but just the kind of the essence of it. So this Patachar and her husband, they had, two young sons, and one was already a few years old, and then another one was fairly new born. And they were, living on their own in some place. But then the wife had the desire to go visit her parents who lived some, distance away, to show them their new son. So this family of the husband and wife and the two young children, it was several days journey. So they had to kind of camp out one night, and there was a storm, and the husband went out to get some firewood, and it seems he was bitten by a snake and died. So he was bitten by a poisonous snake and died. So this woman, of course, was probably quite upset about that. But then she continued on this journey just with her two sons. And then they came to a river, a fast-flowing river. And so this lady, she decided she couldn't carry both of her sons across the river. So she left one, the older one, on that one bank, and then was going to carry the baby in her arms across the river and put that baby down and then come back for the other one. So she crossed the river and put that baby down on the bank and was coming back across the river to get the other son. But in the middle of the river, she was losing her balance and was kind of, in the middle of the river, she saw a vulture. A vulture had swooped down and grabbed that baby that she had left on the other bank and took it away. And so she was screaming and wailing, when that bird was carrying away the baby. She was screaming and wailing, and the other son, who was still on the bank waiting for his mother, he thought the mother was telling the boy to come into the river to meet her. So the boy went into the river, and he was swept away by the river, and she couldn't catch him. So she wound up losing both of the sons also. And so naturally, she was really distraught. But then she continued to go to see her parents. And when she got near the town, she saw that there had been a big fire, or there's a lot of destruction in the city. And when she went in the city, she was looking for the house of her parents, and it was burned down. And then the people told her that her parents also had perished in the fire. And so she became even more distraught. So now she's lost her husband, two children, and both parents. And so she went basically mad. And the story says that she took off all of her clothes and was running around just screaming and yelling like a mad person, incoherently. And then finally, some people told her to go and see the Buddha. So she went to see the Buddha, and the Buddha taught her about impermanence and about the nature of life, and that these things, happen all the time to different people. And the people who die according to their karma, they pass away according to their karma. So hearing this teaching, her mind became pacified, and she also attained a sotapanna and became a sotapanna. So, and then become a nun also, I think. So that's that's an example of hearing the Dhamma, can help to pacify the mind, and living one's life without reflecting on the Dhamma, but how just a short reflection on the Dhamma can awaken the mind to the truth. And then there's a kind of a sister verse to this, the story of Kisa Gotami, which is a very famous story also. And the verse connected with that is Yo chavasa satam jive apasam mamatam padam ekaham jivitam seyo pasato amatam padam. Though one should live 100 years without seeing the deathless state, yet better indeed is a single day of one who sees the deathless state. That means one who has a glimpse of nibbana, the unconditioned. So a person who has, attained at least the state of a sotapanna is better than living for 100 years without realizing that. Because again, without realizing becoming at least a sotapanna, one could continue on in samsara, undergoing limitless amounts of births and deaths. But just having contemplate the Dhamma even for a short time, many people have attained at least the stage of a sotapanna. And so that short time was in which, they're then guaranteed to attain enlightenment within 7 lifetimes at the most. So this just to illustrate the power of seeing the pure Dhamma. So this story of the Kisa Gotami, many of you already know the story, I'm sure. But it's similar to the story of Patara. But this one lady had a young baby, and it also died. But she had the baby with her, so it died of a sickness or something. She didn't get lost like a bird carried it away, or it got carried down the river. But so she still had this child, and she was going around, wailing and asking people to bring it back to life, and wanting to bring this child back to life. So somebody said, well, go ask the Buddha, So this lady thought, oh, the Buddha can bring my child back to life. So she went to the Buddha, and she asked the Buddha, can you bring my child back to life? He didn't tell her yes or no. He said, well, you do one thing. He said, you go through the village and you knock on the doors of the houses and you try to collect some mustard seed. So mustard seed was a common type of spice that was used in cooking. So very small little seeds. And most people had them. So, she knocked on the door and she said, oh, do you have some mustard seeds? But the Buddha made a caveat. He said, but you have to get mustard seed from a house in which no person had ever died in that house or in that family. So he made that a stipulation about bringing the mustard seed. So she thought, oh, this will be a cinch, and get my baby to come back to life. So she went to the house, and the people said, yeah, we got some mustard seed. And then she said, oh, yeah, has anybody died here in this house? And they kind of looked at this woman kind of in shock and said, what do you mean? Did anyone die? Many people have died in this house. Just last week, my uncle died. A couple months before that, my nephew or niece, and she gave a list of people that had died, over the years, and said, "Oh, okay, well, I can't take mustard seed from you." So she went to the next house, and she got the same reply over and over and over again. I don't know how many houses she finally went to, but finally it dawned on her that everything is impermanent. Everybody dies. So she went back to the Buddha and, she buried her son and asked to become a nun. And she also then, after meditating for a while, she became enlightened, became an arhat. So that's, again, is just a story to illustrate how this woman could have gone on grieving and grieving for many years and maybe killed herself through her grief, but just contemplating the Dhamma or hearing, the Buddha talk about impermanence, realizing impermanence, the deathless state, then, the mind can become liberated. So there's many verses with that same thing. Better than living for 100 years, immoral is better than living, for just one day, observing the precepts perfectly, or better than living without, understanding the truth is living one day, understanding the truth. So those are those verses that I wanted to share with you, and just so that again, these are just things to reflect on when and to show the value of the meditation over the value of just spending hours and hours doing useless things like watching so many things, entertainments, and things that don't pacify the mind, and to use one's available spare time, or letting go of some of those kind of unproductive habits and time-wasting things to contemplate the Dhamma, and to to live a skillful life. Okay, so now if anybody has any questions about any of those, on that theme of any of these verses that we talked about, or it could be any other questions on the Dhamma or meditation. Seems like these last weeks people haven't had too many questions. That's fine. We can always go to meditation and have a longer yoga and meditation session. But okay, so there's one question here. In this world, whatever gift or alms a person seeking merit should offer for a year. Oh, he's repeating one of these verses. So he's asking, there's a lot of charlatans, or this person, is from India, and so again, some of these verses were, relating to these kind of ascetics like fire worshippers or other monks who promise people, things or miraculous powers or guaranteed birth in heaven if they, give them money or so on. But then wind up getting exploited. And we can see that even in the modern day of the exploitation of even, so-called spiritual people, and exploiting people's kindness and so on. So how do we know who is really enlightened and only show reverence to them and not the charlatans? Well, if one understands the Dhamma, then and by knowing a person over a long period of time, then one and by the person's actions and conduct, one could know, and if you get benefit from their teachings, then you can follow those kind of persons rather than ones who just amass big amounts of disciples, and somehow, there's a lot of these gurus that have, big amounts of disciples and collect lots of money, and they become wealthy on that. But doesn't mean those persons maybe are not, enlightened and so on. But still, it's not easy to know, especially if we ourselves have not meditated. But one who is by themselves, meditates and understands the Dhamma, then you will be in a better position to understand other monks or teachers who would more or less conform to what one understands as being a person worthy of respect, so to speak. So, anyway. Does anybody have any other questions? You want to just speak up and ask a question, you can do that.
Bhante, just wanted to clarify that answer. Sometimes generosity is also for us to practice. So if we don't have anyone who is at that level of, let's say, reverence, it's still good for us to give, and so that also is as a practice, it could be helpful, right? So without
I mean, practicing dana, you can give dana, various charities, and
right.
do good work, and without them, any of those people being enlightened, and it doesn't supporting enlightened people, and that it means paying respects to them, and so honoring them, rather than, as opposed to just giving money, for example, or supporting their monasteries. That's one thing, but if you see them using that in a way that driving around in rich cars or wearing all kind of whatever, but so it means the paying respects to them, and also following their teachings, so on, rather than just offering the money. I mean, dana is not only giving money to to people or places, but offering one's time and so on as well. The practice of generosity and helping others.
Thanks, man.
Okay, there was another, I think, another chat verse. Many of the verses featured enlightenment after performing evil acts. Why does this happen? What about the karmic effects of doing wrong? Do these individuals still experience effects of karma? Now, I know we do read about these instances, but again, 1 or 2 weeks ago, we also were covering some suttas in which, people were trying to judge people by their actions. And we don't know what might have occurred in the previous life. Like Angulimala, for example, he had actually been a very good boy and when he was young, but because of the evil intentions of the jealous other schoolmates, he was kind of or they told lies to the teacher and turned the teacher against this boy. Anyway, it's a long story. I'm not going to repeat it because you can read that. It's a famous story that he was kind of forced into killing people, but underneath he had that potential to attain enlightenment. So I know sometimes it seems contradictory, but that shouldn't give us. We shouldn't think, well, maybe I can just continue to drink or carouse around or do unskillful things, tell lies, steal, and then attain enlightenment at the end. Well, lots of luck. So there might be a very few individuals who could do that and still attain enlightenment. But a lot of those people, if you looked into their past lives, they may have already, had a lot of contact with the Dhamma, but for whatever reason, they might have got into skillful states. Or perhaps, maybe even some of these stories could have been made up. We don't know, but they illustrate a point. The main thing is to illustrate a point that even though, we've all done negative things, maybe not murdering a lot of people, but certainly other unskillful things, criminals and so on. They can turn a leaf and attain, enlightenment. That's the power of the enlightenment. Is the only thing that can burn those effects of the evil deeds, except for the evil deeds of killing a mother or father. If a person killed their mother or father, there's no way they can escape that effects of that kind of evil deed. In fact, that was the story behind Angulimala's. Angulimala, he went out, he was supposed to kill a lot of people and cut their fingers off to present this finger garland to his teacher as a payment for his studies. But he almost collected, 1,000 fingers. I think it was I rather use the word 100. I doubt it was 1,000, but whatever. He needed one more finger to complete this garland. And he thought about his mother. But then the Buddha's meditation cushion got very hot, and then he realized, oh, something's going on here. So he tuned his mind and he realized Angulimala was going to kill his mother. And he knew if Angulimala killed his mother, he would be barred from attaining enlightenment in this life. So the Buddha intervened and went to Angulimala, and Angulimala chased the Buddha instead of going to kill his mother. So that was out of compassion. That's one of the heinous, the worst kind of bad karma one can commit would be to kill a mother or father. It definitely would prevent you from attaining enlightenment in this life. So the Buddha diverted his attention and he went and chased the Buddha. But then with psychic power, the Buddha was able to convert Angulimala so that at least, even though he had killed 99 other people, at least he hadn't killed his mother. So he was still salvageable in that respect. And then by living with the Buddha, he attained enlightenment. Anyway, again, a lot of these stories seem hard to believe, but the main point is understanding the kind of the deeper meaning behind them. That people can, even though we've led lives and created a lot of bad karma, you can still overcome it if one really puts your mind to it, and if one has the kind of accumulated paramis and so on, and not use that as an excuse, saying, oh, I've done too many evil things, I'll never be able to amount to much, and then not even give the effort to practice. Okay, so anyway, I think that may be enough for now. And So I'm just going to give a heads up about the Sunday's program, because I know a lot of you attend the Sunday program too, but on the next Sunday, I won't be giving a Zoom program at 2 p.m. because I'll be participating in a Zoom program offered by the Bhavana Society. And but I will be giving a talk at 2 o'clock, but it won't be on this Zoom meeting ID. So I'll be giving a talk next Sunday from 2 to 4, talk and meditation, but it won't be on this same meeting ID. And so it will be on the Bhavana Society's Zoom. So those of you, I know many of you are also on the Bhavana Society's mailing list and so on. And so I'm going to be participating on Sunday, next Sunday, on their program. But it's the same time. And I'll give that link on my next newsletter that I send out probably tomorrow. I'll try to do that. And then the following week on Sunday, I'll be, we're having a retreat here at the Lion of Wisdom, an in-house retreat, and it ends on Sunday. And I'll be giving, those will be on Zoom too, I think, a lot of that. But the last Dhamma talk and meditation would be in the morning on Sunday, not at 2 p.m. So for the next 2 weeks, there won't be a 2 p.m. Zoom program on these particular links, these Zoom links. But there will be, I know it's a little bit complicated. I'll try to explain it in the newsletter I send out. So I think most of you should be on our mailing list for that weekly letter. But just suffice it to say that on this particular link, the 2 p.m. time, there won't be, for the next 2 weeks, a program. But there will be the Wednesday evening one on the same time and the same link. Okay? So let's go ahead and take a short break to get ready for do a little yoga stretching and then our meditation. Okay? I'll see you back in a few minutes. I'm trying to find a spot where you'll be able to see my hands go up. Okay, we're going to begin with a few stretches now. So just stand straight. Gently close your eyes. Feel your feet pressing the floor. Relax your arms and hands at the sides. Just feel the standing body and begin some deep, slow breathing. After breathing in, hold the air in the lungs for 3 or 4 seconds. You feel that pause, you give time for the oxygen to get into the bloodstream, return to the starting point on the out breath, repeating each one 3 times. So on the next in-breath, raise the arms over the head, interlock the fingers, turn the palms up, straighten the arms, stretch the head back. The out breath, turn the palms down, touch the top of the head. In the in-breath, palms up, straighten the arms. Bend back a little bit. Out breath, touch the head. Third time, hold that upward stretch longer, bend back a little more. And release the fingers. The out breath, arms back to the sides. Relax. Just close the eyes. Just feel the increased sensations in the body. And next on the in-breath, push up on the toes while raising the arms over the head. Stretch up. Out breath, arms back to the sides. In breath. Out. In. Stretch. Out. Relax. Just close the eyes. Feel subtle sensations, pulsations. Feel the clothing touching the outer skin. Feel the life force vibrations under the skin. Just remember standing. And next we'll do side bending, using both arms on an in-breath. Raise both arms up. Keep the arms close to your head. On the out-breath, bend over the right side as far as you comfortably can. Keep the arms parallel to each other. In-breath up. And the other side, out-breath. In breath. Again to the right. In. Out. In. Once more to each side. The out breath. Relax. Just keep feeling the body. Remember standing. Standing. Just feel all those inner body sensation, prickling sensation, increased pulsation, the aches or pain. Okay, now spread the feet apart, at least 3 feet. Holding the arms out, we'll do the twisting from side to side. And breathe in. And look at the right hand. On the out breath, twist around. Keep the eyes focused on the hand going back. The out breath, come back to the front. The in breath, excuse me. And the out breath. Then the out breath, the other side. In breath, back to the front. Let the feet turn with the body, again to the right, out breath. In, out. Once more to each side, out breath. Relax. Just feel each foot pressing the floor. Don't give the mind time to wander in thoughts. Just always keep feeling parts of the body. Each foot pressing the floor. Hands touching the side. Clothing touching the skin. Just remember standing, standing. The present moment of the body. Now place the hands together at the chest. Keep the legs spread apart. In breath, hands over the head. And the out breath, hands to the chest, bend the knees, lower the body down. As far as you comfortably can come down. I keep the back upright. In breath all the way up. Again, out breath. In. Out. In. The out breath, arms back to the sides, relax. Keep feeling the body. And bring the legs together. One last exercise, the backward and forward bending. Turn the palms outward. On the in-breath, gradually raise the arms up, opening them out to the sides as you bend back. Look up at the ceiling. Carefully lift up with the in-breath, keeping the arms out at the sides. And lower the arms and hands down toward the, bend down to try to touch the floor. Try to keep your legs straight. Let the bones in the lower spine stretch out. And begin standing up, turn the palms outward, opening the arms out with the in-breath, out to the sides. In-breath, lift up, out-breath. In, turn the palms outward, open the arms out to the side. Out breath. On the in breath, to finish, bring the hands together at the chest. Out breath, hands back to the sides, relax. Feel the whole body vibrating, pulsating with activated life force. Feel as though the whole body nervous system has been washed and bathed with healing life force vibrations, oxygenated blood, allowing those pleasant sensations, hold the attention in the present moment awareness, centered in the body, natural awareness. Okay, now let's come back to our seats and get ready for meditation. Okay, friends, we'll do our meditation now. So just try to sit straight. Try to align the back of the head and the spine in a straight line. Try to find the center of gravity of the head and spine over the hips. Keeping the chin level, parallel with the floor. And bring your total attention down to feel where the buttocks press the seat. Just as though you were looking through a camera lens and focusing the camera lens on an object. Just focus the concentrated awareness. That spot where both buttocks press the seat. Just feel that weight of the body pressing the buttocks on the seat. Just feel some sensations there in the buttocks. And just remind yourself of sitting. Now this body is sitting. Just try to feel the left buttock and the right buttock. And just allow the awareness to move down the legs, the upper legs moving down towards the knees, feeling where the clothing touches the skin of the legs. And coming down to the knees to feel the knees. And moving down the lower legs. Feel the calf muscle or the shin bone. Then feel the heels of the feet. And focus your attention on the heels. There'll be lots of sensation on the heels, either the socks touching the skin of the heels or the pulse of blood in the heels. Or any other sensation. And opening up to feel the rest of the foot, the feet, the arches of the feet and the toes. Just try to feel the toes where they touch together. Or where the feet press the floor. And just remember sitting. Just letting go of your thoughts. Just let the thoughts come and go in the back of the mind. Just keep the camera lens of awareness focused on this particular body part. And now moving the attention up to feel the hands and fingers, where they touch the legs or where they touch together. Try to feel the outline of the thumbs or fingers, the subtle pulsations or the sensation. Just try to feel that organic aliveness in the hands and fingers. Just being aware of the sitting. These hands belong to the sitting body. And now feel the arms hanging from the shoulders. Relax the shoulders. Feel where the clothing rubs the skin of the shoulders or arms. Now moving the attention up to feel the base of your neck, where the collar of the clothing touches the base of the neck. And feel inside the throat. Notice any sensation, swallow or cough. And now try to feel the point of your chin. Try to feel some sensation on the point of the chin. Then feel the lips touching together. The upper lip touching the lower lip. Feel a sensation of dryness or moistness in the lip. And then feel the tongue laying in the mouth, where the tongue might touch the sides of the mouth, the roof of the mouth, or any teeth. Now feel the eyes and the sockets and the eyelids stretched over the eyeball. Just feel any subtle eye movement, or even the blood pulsing in the capillaries of the eyes. Relax the eyes. You might see some light or color or a mental image, or just darkness. Just kind of imagine that you're kind of looking at the eyes and the sockets, the eye of awareness. Awareness is also like an eye, the third eye. You know, from that point behind the eyes, just see or feel the face, sort of like you're filming it or taking a video of the inside of the face to feel the different sensations. The skin stretched over the forehead, the nose, the lip, cheeks, and the chin. Kind of just like panning with a video camera, the eye of awareness. And kind of just move it around to feel all those different sensations that's controlling your mind. And let that same awareness kind of open up. You can feel the lower body, feel the shoulders, the arms, the hands, chest. Buttocks, legs, and feet underneath. Should be able to kind of just feel that outline of the sitting body. Feeling all those sensations from all those different places. It's called concentrated awareness, centered in the body. And tune in to the breathing process, or try to take some deep, slow breaths. Just begin some deep, slow breathing to feel that more exaggerated, expanding and contracting sensations of the abdomen, rib cage, and upper chest. Holding the breath in for a few seconds to help stay centered, feeling the subtle sensations and feeling the relaxing contractions of the out breath. Just take several deep, slow breaths, cultivating this basic mindfulness. Breathing in, letting go of the past and future. Breathing out, sitting here and now. Breathing in, letting go of the past and future. Breathing out, sitting here and now. Breathing in, feeling the whole body. Breathing out, feeling the whole body. Again, let's count the breaths from 1 to 10. Try to maintain a continuous concentration. With the next expanding in breath, count 1. Feel the brief pause. With the contracting out breath, also count 1. Feel the last bit of air go out to the lungs. And the next in breath, 2. The out breath, 2. In breath, 3. Out breath, 3. In breath, 4. Out breath, 4. In breath, 5. Out breath, 5. In breath, 6. Out breath, 6. In breath, 7. Out breath, 7. In breath, 8. Out breath, 8. In breath, 9. Out breath, 9. In breath, 10. Out breath 10. Now discontinue the counting. Discontinue any deep, controlled breathing. Just letting the breathing return to its shorter, irregular, uncontrolled rhythm. But continue to feel it. Continue to stay focused on the subtler, shorter movements of expanding and contracting. Try to feel those subtle sensations of the clothing rubbing against the stomach, rib cage, or chest. It expands and contracts. Just make that the main focus of your concentrated awareness. Just knowing when the breath is coming in and knowing when the breath is going out. You know it by feeling it. By perception. Try to feel the 4 phases of the breath. Expanding in breath, the brief pause. The contracting out breath and the brief pause. Just over and over and over again. Feeling all those different subtle sensations. Especially be alert for those brief pauses between the breaths, even if it's just a fraction of a second. Notice how each breath is different, sometimes longer, sometimes shorter. Sometimes the in breath is longer than the out breath, or the out breath is longer than the in breath. It's always changing. Try to have the feeling of being a scientist sitting in the laboratory, observing an experiment. This body is the meditator's laboratory. And concentrated awareness is the microscope. Just understanding that this material body kept alive by the breathing, oxygen, life force coming into the body, circulating through all the cells, and the out breath, expelling the carbon dioxide or impurities. Just as you eat food and then excrete the food out the backside, the body eats oxygen, expels the impurities, carbon dioxide out the lungs. Just try to imagine and feel that process. Feel all the rippling effects of expanding and contracting throughout the body. Very subtle vibration. But at the same time, be alert for thoughts or the mental activity going through the back of the mind or trying to take you away from the body. Or if there's drowsiness, be aware of the drowsy mind. Take a few deep breaths, straighten up the posture to overcome that drowsiness. Just maintaining that awareness, just breathing in, sitting, breathing out, sitting, breath by breath, moment by moment. Just opening up to observe that flow of impermanence. Everything in this body-mind process is continually changing. All the sensations in the body are changing, coming and going, changing. Feelings are changing. Sometimes pleasant sensations, sometimes painful sensations. Perceptions are always changing. Noticing different objects. The stream of thoughts or emotions, urges. And the consciousness, especially the ego consciousness. Thoughts of I, me, or mine. Just try to understand the five aggregates. When they catch your attention, this is material form, vibration. This is a painful, pleasant, and neutral sensation. This is a perception, recognizing an object. That's my hand, my foot, my head. The sound, thoughts about them, the sankharas, and the consciousness. This process of life, the body process, the mental process, it's powered by the accumulation of the past accumulated karma, the desire to live, to enjoy the world, to experience the effects of past karma. Ultimately, there's no owner or controller of the process. It's not self. So underneath all of that change and impermanence of these five aggregates is the underlying present moment awareness, or the deathless state that doesn't come and go. This breathing body is the natural connection, the entry point for experiencing the present moment awareness. Sitting, breathing, sensations coming and going. what perceptions arise based on the sound contact. Sound arises and passes away. Yo chavasa satam jive apasamudayavayam ekaham jivitang seyu pasato udayavayam. Yo chavasa satam jive apasam mamatam padam ekaham jivitang seyu pasato amatam padam. Better than living for 100 years without seeing how all things just arise to pass away is better living a single day of one who sees how things rise and pass away. In the same way, better than living for 100 years without seeing the deathless state is just living a single day seeing the deathless state. And thus spoke the Buddha. You take a deep, slow breath. I invite you to join in chanting the word sadhu 3 times if you like. On the out breath. Place the hands at the edge of the knees. Take a deep breath. Pull the hands against the knees to stretch the head back and arch the lower spine. And lift the head up, and on an out breath, press the chin to the top of the chest to stretch the neck vertebrae. Lift the chin up level on an in-breath. Relax on the out-breath. Put a smile on your face. Okay, friends. So I hope you're able to have a few interesting insights during that meditation. And sometimes the topics of impermanence and no self, or the deathless state sound, like so far away, or the sound, it's kind of negative. But actually, when one starts to really understand them with the eye of insight, then only then one can understand the meanings of some of those verses that we are reciting. Okay, does anybody have any last any question they might like to ask at the end? And just as a reminder, next Sunday, I'll be giving a talk in meditation at the same time, 2 to 4, but on the Zoom meeting ID of the Bhavana Society. And I'll try to send out that link on the newsletter. I hope to get out by tomorrow evening.
Bhante, can I ask you one short question before finishing the meeting?
That sounds like Artur from some.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, sure.
For example, if somebody commit very many crimes during life, is it possible that he get enlightenment and cut the karma vipakas of this old killings, or he have to exhaust this karmic results before he can get the enlightenment?
It depends on what sort of crimes the person might have committed, as I mentioned already in those stories that I'm reading. The only crime that cannot be mitigated is killing the mother or father, or wounding a Buddha, or killing an Arahant.
Sure.
Schism in the order. But killing a human being or the animals, as long as you're not doing it, like a serial murderer or something like that. But, if you, it's possible, although, it depends on the accumulation of merits and wisdom you might have, had done in the past also. And we cited the example of Angulimala. But we certainly shouldn't use that as an excuse to go out and do crime,
Sure.
thinking you're going to get away with it by attaining enlightenment. But, only one out of a very rare few individuals might be able to, attain enlightenment even in the same lifetime, has done a lot of crimes. But theoretically, it could be possible, but probably not probable for most persons.
So in a rare situation, it is not necessary that he has to experience this karma vipaka before he can get the enlightenment. He can cut this.
Only by attaining the stages of entering the stream, once returning, never. That's the most powerful karma vipaka. That overpowers even karma of killing or breaking precepts. But normally a person wouldn't be able to attain the stream winning, because of, if you're committing these types of karmas, then your mind would be too disturbed. But somebody's living with somebody like the Buddha and that powerful energy, then it's conceivable that they could, but probably not probable. But the karma, is so powerful. That's why it burns the seeds of karma. If we don't meditate, you're not going to burn the seeds of those karma. You're going to keep accumulating more and more karma. And as you meditate, you're going to stop committing those evil deeds anyway, because your mind will be becoming more purified. So that's the whole point. The meditation is the key point. Once you meditate, you're going to stop getting involved in all, because the meditation and the happiness from meditation supersedes any type of happiness you're going to get by killing, lying, cheating, stealing, and others, because that only incurs a lot of worry, guilt, remorse, and fear. But in meditation, no, you begin to experience the inner happiness of the more quiet mind and the subtler vibrations. So you would stop all of those things that prevent you from maintaining that connection to the present moment and the happiness that comes from that.
Thank you, Bhante.
You're welcome. Okay, friends. So wish you all the best this week, and we'll see you again.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bhante.
Thank you.
Namo Buddhaya.
Namo Buddhaya, Bhante.
Namo Buddhaya.
When we say Namo Buddhaya, that means we're acknowledging that really it's that deathless state, is seeing the Buddhic awareness, seeing that wisdom of the deathless state. That is the Buddha. That is the real Buddhaya. The Buddha within is experiencing that deathless state. Okay?
Thank you, Bhante.
Thank you.
Thank you.